Dear loving students, I hope all of you are keeping fine. Most of you are doing your test very well, but some are not seriously revising, so they are getting less mark. I want all the 10th class students to study seriously as you are studying for your board exam. Don't wait for the exam to come near to study. You must study regularly and systematically. Every day you should spend 3 to 4 hours for study. Take the pre-midterm syllabus and revise each chapter part by part each day, so that you are able to revise as many times as possible. This time there will be more number of multiple choice questions or a short answer type questions. So the students should read the chapter thoroughly, and any question can come from anywhere from the lesson. So reading of the lesson is a must. I want all of you to score maximum marks, and if anybody has not sent me the notes of civics chapter federalism, you should send it to me, and when you send it, you should mention your name and class and division, and my WhatsApp number 9847831642. So as we start the revision, last year in 9th standard 9B, I think some portion was left, we could not complete. So those students who are not noted down those questions, you can note down that it is about economic depression. Those who have not done it, you can note down, and others can listen. You may benefit just a revision. So let us begin our revision of pre-midterm history and civics. First question: what was economic depression? The Great Economic Depression began in 1929 and lasted till mid-1930s. During this period, most parts of the world experienced declines in production. Production reduced, employment decreased, income decreased, and trade decreased. So we can understand the economic depression affected production, employment, income, and trade very badly. As we go to the next question, we can understand what was the impact. Which factors were responsible for the economic depression? First point, agricultural overproduction. So due to agricultural overproduction of food grains, it led to fall in agricultural prices. Agricultural prices fell down. As prices fell by 50 to 60%, agricultural income declined. So when the wheat prices and the jute prices fell by 50 to 60%, the income of the farmers declined. So farmers did not have a buying capacity. Their income was reduced because the food grains prices came very low. Then what did the farmers do? The farmers tried to expand their production. Expand means increase their production, and brought more produce or food grains to the market. When the farmers' income decreased, what did they do? They cultivated more area and they increased more production so that they may get more income. As a result, more food grains came to the market. Let us see what happened. The fourth point, as a result, farm produce rotted in the market. Rotted means decayed. You have seen rotten tomatoes or rotten fruits, which is of no use to anyone. When so much food grains came to the market, The markets were, you can say, flooded with food grains due to lack of buyers. So much food grains came. There were not enough people to buy. People did not have income. As a result, the food grains rotted in the market. So that was a condition. So that is the first point. Agricultural overproduction was responsible for economic depression. The income of the farmers declined, the buying capacity of the farmers declined, and they were not able to buy things from the market. Second important point is a withdrawal of loan by US or America. Withdrawal means, the loan which you are given, you call back the loans, you get the loan back. First of all, we must understand many countries in the world financed their investments through loans from America. Many countries made investment in maybe factories, industries, or real investment business through loans from America. As we discuss the next point, you will understand better. In 1928, US overseas loans amounted to $1 billion. In 1928, America gave about $1 billion as loans to other countries, especially European countries. By sensing trouble in the market, between 1920 and 1930, there was something fishy in the market, some trouble in the market, or people say you smell a rat in the market. So sensing some trouble in the market, US reduced the amount of loan to other countries to 1/4. 1/4 means between 1929 1930 they gave $1 billion. Now they are giving only $25 million. So America reduced the loan. As a result, what happened? It led to the failure of banks. That you will understand detail in the next question. It led to failure of banks. Many banks failed, collapsed, and business collapsed. Business collapsed. Households were ruined. People, whatever households, houses, refrigerators, cars, washing machines, whatever they purchased, they lost all those things because of lack of income. So we have understood this question, I hope so, that what are the factors responsible for economic depression? One is agricultural overproduction. Due to agricultural overproduction, income of the farmers reduced, agricultural prices came down to 50 to 60%. Then another second factor is a withdrawal of loan by America. America reduced domestic lending. America reduced giving loans to other countries. That also affected business, failure of banks, etc. Let us move on to the next question. What were the impacts of economic depression on America? US banks reduced domestic lending and called back loans. American banks reduced domestic lending, even giving loans within the country they reduced, and they called back loans. They asked people to pay back the loans. Second point, farmers could not sell their harvest. Whatever produce they made, they were unable to sell in the market. There were no buyers. Another point, households were ruined. Households were ruined means, I told you, they purchased house, they purchased car, they purchased washing machine, they purchased refrigerator, everything through loans. So once they lost their jobs, their income declined, they were forced to give up their car, their houses, their washing machines, their refrigerator, everything, because it was purchased through EMI, easy monthly installment. Next point, we can understand what was the seriousness of economic depression on America. Business collapsed as about 110,000. 110,000 factories closed down. Unemployment increased as 1,10,000 factories closed down. Unemployment increased. 4,000 banks became bankrupt. Bankrupt means banks were declared as pauper. Banks were closed down. 4,000 banks. So that was the impact of economic depression in America. Now let us move on to the next question. What were the impact of economic depression on India? First point, India's export and import reduced to 50%. So it affected very badly the export and import. Whatever India was exporting and what India was importing. That export and import was reduced to 50%, almost half. Next point, wheat prices fell by 50%. Suppose wheat was being sold for 20 rupees, now they are selling it for 10 rupees. The jute prices fell by 60%. Now why the jute prices reduced? Because the demand for gunny bags, the gunny bags were used for storing sugar cane, rice, wheat, whatever for the factories. The jute prices fell by 60% as the demand for gunny bags decreased due to the closure of factories. So the next point is peasants' indebtedness increased and they were forced to mortgage their jewelry and precious metals to meet their expenses. Peasants' indebtedness means farmers fell into deeper debt. As a result, they were forced to mortgage. Mortgage means keep your jewelry, precious metals in the bank or with the money lenders and get money. And they were also forced to use up whatever savings they had to meet their expenses. And as a result, you find one way it was an advantage for the world because India became an exporter of gold and precious metals to other parts of the world. This is the CBSE syllabus for 2020-21 for history and civics. You will have to study nationalism in Europe. The second chapter, nationalism in India. The third chapter, the making of the global world. This chapter, the making of the global world, will come only for school-based exam. For any exam conducted in the school, you may be asked questions from this chapter. But for CBSE exam, no questions will come from the third chapter, the making of the global world. I think it is clear. And next we come to civics syllabus. Civics you will have to study altogether 4 chapters. The first chapter, power sharing, which we have already done. The second chapter is federalism. That also we have done. We have 2 more chapters to be completed. Political parties and outcome of democracy. Now let us move on to a revision of power sharing and federalism. First, in the chapter power sharing, we have the case study of 2 countries. One is Belgium, second one is Sri Lanka. So let us first study about Belgium. What is the geographical position of Belgium? First of all, Belgium is a small country and Belgium shares borders with Netherlands, France and Germany. Second point, area and population. Smaller in area than the Indian state of Haryana. Population is a little over 1 crore. Next, move on to the ethnic composition of Belgium. In Belgium, 59% of people speak Dutch language. That is in the countryside of Belgium. 40% of people speak French and 1% speak German. Now let us find out which is the capital of Belgium. The capital of Belgium is Brussels. 80% of people speak French language and 20% of people speak Dutch language. In Brussels, the Dutch-speaking people are a minority, but in the rest of the country, the Dutch people are a majority. Let us come to the geographical position, population, and ethnic composition and religion of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a small island in Asia off the southern coast of Tamil Nadu. Population about 2 crore, and ethnic composition of Sri Lanka 74% Sinhalese speaking people. They speak Sinhalese language, so they are called Sinhalas. 18% Tamil speaking people. Out of this 18%, 13% are natives of Sri Lanka. They are called Sri Lankan Tamils. So that is, you may be asked a MCQ question. Who are called the natives of Sri Lanka? The natives of Sri Lanka means Sri Lankan Tamils. The other 5% are Indians who migrated to Sri Lanka to work. They are called Indian Tamils. Now let us find out what is the religion of Sri Lankan people. Most of the Sinhala speaking people are Buddhist. That is why they have made a law. They made a law in 1956 to foster and protect Buddhism, because most of the Sinhalese people follow the religion called Buddhism, and most of the Tamils are Hindus or Muslims or Christians. Now, accommodation in Belgium. We have already given you a question, given account of Belgium model of power sharing. Belgium model of power sharing is considered as the best one in the world. So, how did they adjust these three communities? Dutch speaking and French speaking and 1% German speaking. They did not neglect any community. They amended their constitution 4 times. Who took the initiatives to bring about this accommodation? Please note down, the leaders of Belgium. You may be asked a question, who played an important role in accommodating various communities of Belgium? The leaders of Belgium took the leadership to accommodate people of various communities. So they amended their constitution 4 times, because we know between 1950s and 1960s there were conflicts between these communities in Belgium. But afterwards they amended the constitution. Amended means they brought about some change in the constitution, and as a result they were able to accommodate each other. So today Belgium is the best example of accepting diversities in the world. First point, there shall be equal number of Dutch and French speaking ministers in the central government. So central government has got a equal number of Dutch speaking and French speaking ministers. Second one, special laws to become act need a majority from each language group. If you want to make any special law to become act, we have to get the majority from each language group. And state government are not subordinate to central government. State governments are not subordinate. They are not under the central government. State governments have their own powers. Central government have their own powers. The next point, a separate government for Brussels. Equal representation for both the linguistic groups. So Brussels, which is the capital of Belgium, has a separate government which has equal number of Dutch speaking and French speaking ministers. We know the composition of Brussels. 80% French people, they are rich and powerful. Only 20% only Dutch speaking people. Even then, you see the how they adjusted. They gave equal number of seats to the Dutch community in Brussels, because the French were given equal number of seats in the central government. So a question may be asked, why the government in Brussels gave equal number of seats to the Dutch community. So both the linguistic groups means French and Dutch linguistic groups. Then the third government, called the community government, was selected by the Dutch, French and German speaking people, and they can deal with this third government, called community government, can deal with language, cultural and educational issues. So the community government can deal with the language, cultural, educational issues of Belgium. Now let us move on to how power is shared among the government at different levels, how power is shared between different organs of the government. First one, let us study about how power is shared between different organs of the government. Organs of the government means power is shared between, there are three organs of the government: legislature and executive and judiciary. Legislature, executive and judiciary. So power is shared between three organs of the government, and that we have already studied that it is called horizontal power sharing. When the power is shared between various organs of the government, it is called horizontal power sharing. Here each one keep a check on each other. No one exercises unlimited power, and it is based on a system of checks and balances. The legislature can keep on a check on the executive and judiciary. Okay, the judiciary can keep on a check on the legislature and the executive. So each one can keep a check on each other. So the parliament can keep a check on the judiciary. So they keep a check on each other. So it is called a system of checks and balances. Second one is how power is shared among government at different levels. Central government or union government, municipality and panchayats, local self-government, known as federalism. So how power is shared among different levels of government. So different power is shared between central government and the state governments or local governments. So it is called vertical power sharing. How power is shared by various levels of government: central government, state governments, maybe local governments. That is called vertical power sharing. Then we find how power is shared by various social groups, religious or linguistic groups. We have the example of Belgium. How power is shared by the linguistic groups of Belgium. And another one, we see how power is shared by pressure groups, social movements, political parties. The pressure groups, they influence the government and force them to change policies. They are famous workers and industrialists. Social movements, they force the governments to change the laws. We have the example how dowry system changed, early marriage changed. We have so many movements, women's movement, environmental movement. There are so many social movements. So it can bring about a change. So there are pressure groups, and the political parties lead the competition. Coalition governments are formed if one party fails to get majority. So parties have to perform if they want to remain in power. So you find how power is shared by political parties, pressure groups and movements. How power is shared by different organs of the government, which is called horizontal power sharing. And the opposite of horizontal is called vertical. And the power is shared among various levels of government, it is called horizontal. Then we saw how power is shared by different social groups, religious or linguistic groups. Okay. So I think these are the question that we already done. What are the modern forms of power sharing? Now let us, you can do some questions related to this chapter. We can go through the question and you can do it, and you can find out the answer for yourself, and some questions for your some exam, some worksheet for you to do at home. Okay. Now let us come to the next chapter, federalism. You know, federalism is a system of government in which a power is shared between the central government and the constituent units. In this you will find what are the features of federalism. First point, it has got two levels of government. Okay, one at the regional level and two at the national level. So what is the first feature of federalism? It has two or three levels of government. In a federal form of government, there may be two levels of government. We have central government and the state governments, and we have added one. In a country like India, we have local self-governments. Then we find two sets of identities. People belong to the region as well as the country. Each region has a separate system of government, and they have distinct powers and responsibilities. So state governments have their own powers and responsibilities. Central government has their own powers and responsibilities. Then next point, there are different terms of government. Each has its own jurisdiction on matters of legislation, taxation and administration. Each level of government has its own jurisdiction. What is jurisdiction? An area over which someone can exercise authority, power. So each central government or the state governments, they have their own jurisdiction in matters of legislation, to make laws, to increase taxes or reduce taxes, and for administration. Or whether even the local government also have their own powers. Then next feature of federalism, the fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be changed arbitrarily by one level of government. If you want to bring about any changes in the fundamental provisions of the Constitution, you need a two-thirds majority support of both the levels of government. And another feature of federalism is that we have an independent judiciary which prevents any kind of conflicts between the center and the states in the exercise of their powers. So if there is any conflict between the center and the states, there is an independent judiciary to solve that problem. You know, we have a dispute between states. We have a dispute between center and the state on various issues. We have the dispute between Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Mullaperiyar Dam issue. We have the issue of Kaveri water sharing between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So all these problems can be best settled by either the Supreme Court or the High Court. Sources of revenue, next feature. Sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure stability. Sources of revenue for central government and the state government is very clearly specified in the Constitution to ensure stability. Now let us move on to the next point, coming together federation and holding together federation. You know, there are two kinds of federations. One is called coming together. Now we have already done this question, distinguish between a coming together and a holding together federation. In coming together federation, we studied that independent states come together on their own to form a bigger unit. Independent states, 13 colonies of America came together to make USA, the United States of America. That is a full form of USA, the United States of America. So 13 independent colonies came together to form a bigger unit called the USA, America. So how did they do that? Second point, they enhanced their security by pooling their sovereignty and identity. They enhance their security. Enhance means increase. They try to increase their security by pooling, by putting together their sovereignty. What is a country? Sovereign means a country is free, independent, free to take its own decisions. So they decided to put together their sovereignty, their independence together, and even their identity. The states and the central have equal powers. In coming to the federation, central and the states have equal powers. States are not subordinate to central government. Example, USA, Australia, Switzerland. I hope you have understood what is coming to the federation. Now let us move on to holding together federation. When a large country decides to divide its power between the states and the central government, it is called holding together federation. When a large country decides to divide its power between the states and the central government, the central government is always more powerful than the regional states. So, in a holding together federation, it is almost like a unitary form of government. The central government is always more powerful than the regional states. Some units have special powers. Different constituent units have unequal powers. Example of a holding together federation: India, Spain, and Belgium. Now let us come to the next point, that is legislative powers. How the subjects of administration is divided into three lists. We already studied the Union list has got 97 subjects of national importance: defense, foreign policy, atomic energy, banking, post and telegraph, etc. And only the Union government can make laws on the subjects mentioned in the Union list. So Union list has got 97 subjects of national importance. So that is why in a unitary form of government, center is more powerful than the state. Let us see what are the powers of the state government. The state has only, it was said that 66 subjects. The state has around 66 subjects, like police, local government, trade, commerce, agriculture, etc. Only the state government has the power to make laws on the state list mentioned in the normal conditions. Suppose an emergency is declared in the state due to war, due to constitutional breakdown. When there is no government in the state, the power is in the hands of central government, then central government can make laws on the state list. Third, we have a concurrent list. Concurrent list has got 47 subjects. In the concurrent list, both the central and the state government can make laws on the subjects such as education, forest, trade unions, trade unions, marriage, adoption, and succession. So please understand this point. In the concurrent list, central government and the state government both can make laws. But in case there is a dispute between the law made by the central government and the state government, always the law made by the central government will be considered as the law. Suppose central government says marriageable age should be 21 and state government says marriageable age should be 18. Always the law made by the central government will be considered as the law. So I hope you understood what are the legislative powers. The Union list has got 97 subjects of national importance. The state list has got 66 subjects. And the Union list has got 47 subjects. You should remember the names of the subjects, because sometimes a question will be asked, which one is not part of the Union list, which subject is not part of the state list, which subject is not part of the concurrent list. Sometimes they can ask you. There is one more which is not given here, that is called residuary powers. Residuary powers means whatever balance powers left. For example, information technology, IT, information technology. When the constitution was made, at that time information technology was not available. So those powers which were, those subjects which were added later, they are called residuary powers. And who can make laws on the residuary powers? Only the central government can make laws on the powers mentioned in the residuary powers. I think that is clear to you. Now let us come to the next question: decentralization in India. Decentralization means when the power is taken away from the central government and the state government and is given to the local governments, it is called decentralization. According to the recommendation of Balwant Rai Committee 1992, decentralization was introduced in India. Now let us find out what are the reasons for decentralization. Why there was a need for decentralization in India? We have three levels of government: union government, then we have state government and local government. We have union government, we have state government, and local government. Now let us find out what are the reasons for decentralization. In a big country like India, it is essential to have an elected government at the local level also. And so in our country is so big, some of our states are so big, states like UP, maybe Madhya Pradesh, they are so big, it cannot be easily administered by the state governments. So that is why we decided to go for a three-tier system. In the constitution, in the beginning, there was only a two-tier system: union government and state governments. The three-tier system was added. The Panchayat Raj system, or the three-tier system, was added in 1992 on the recommendations of a Balwant Rai Committee. Why there is a need for decentralization? Very important question. Local people have better knowledge of the local problems. Local people have better ideas where to spend money and how to manage things more effectively. People sitting in Thiruvananthapuram, people sitting in Delhi, they do not know what is the problems of local people. So the local people have better ideas where to spend money and how to manage things more effectively. Common citizens can be involved in decision making process. So common people get a chance to take part in decision making, and people can approach a local government for solving their problems easily and quickly, and the cost is also reduced to the minimum. Less corruption. So the local government at grassroots level ensures stability, strength and health of democracy. So people can take part in decision making. People know where to spend money. They know how to. They have better ideas, better knowledge about their local problems. So that is the reason this question is very important. Why there was a need for decentralization? Let us come to local self-government. That is a Panchayat Raj system. We said it's a three-tier system. So we have central government, state government, and local self-governments at the rural level and urban level. The rural level, at the top we have Zilla Parishad for the Zilla. Zilla means a district. Parishad means council, district council. And below the Zilla Parishad we have Gram Samadhis, or we call it a block or mandal, or we call it a Panchayat Samadhi. And below that we have Gram Panchayats, or we have village Panchayat. That is at the rural level. It's a three-tier system: Gram Panchayat, Panchayat Samadhi or Gram Samadhis. At the top we have Zilla Parishad. And in the urban level we have municipal corporations. In the big cities we have municipal corporations, and the other ones we have municipal councils, or we call it municipalities in the small urban areas. Important features of the local government bodies. So what steps are taken to strengthen? We have studied a question. What steps are taken to strengthen local government bodies? First point, it is mandatory to hold a regular election to the local government. It is mandatory. Mandatory means compulsory to hold a regular election to the local government after 5 years. Reservations of seats for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes reservations are made for. So seats are reserved for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. Then 1/3 seats are reserved for women. 1/3 seats are reserved for women in the local self-government. So that is why you find your ward members may be a lady. So 1/3 seats are. 33% of seats are reserved for women. Then a state election commission has been created in each district to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. A state election commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. It is their duty. And many subjects in the state list have been transferred to Panchayat Raj institutions. And many powers are also given to. Not only many powers are given, sources of revenue are also clearly given to the local self-governments for their developments. Now there are some questions related to this chapter, federalism. You can go through those questions, and just for practice you can do it and find out the correct answer. And I want all of you to read the chapter thoroughly. Any question can be asked from within the chapter. So today we have done a revision of these two chapters mainly, and a little bit was left of making of the global world that we have done. If you have any doubt, you can call me, and I'll try to clear your doubts. And in the federalism, there is we have already studied what is the language policy of India, that you should deal with. What is the language policy of India? That question's answer you should know. You should know the center-state relationship. We said the center-state relationship was not good up to 1990. After 90, the Supreme Court passed an order that center cannot take away the powers of the state governments. After 1990, we found no single party gets majority. As a result, we find more number of regional parties came into existence. And since no single party got majority, the government was formed through coalition. An alliance was formed. We have at the center either NDA, National Democratic Alliance, or UPA, which is called United Progressive Alliance, led by Congress. NDA, National Democratic Alliance, is led by BJP. We have in Kerala, we have LDF and UDF. LDF led by Communist Party, CPIM, and the UDF is led by Congress, Muslim League, and all that. So after we find after 1990s, only we were able to form coalition governments, either maybe in the state level or in the central level. So more regional parties get a chance to take part in decision making. So we find more people participating in decision making. So that also strengthens federalism. That also strengthens federalism, when more and more people get a chance to take part in the decision making from various parts of the country. So with that, we wind up today's class, and I want all of you to read the chapter thoroughly and learn well, so that you should score maximum marks. We should not be just happy with getting passing marks. All the students should try to get above 80%. So I wish you all the best.